But can I challenge you on something?
Yeah.
This is something in the last episode, man. You said something. We were talking about the Robin DiAngelo book, and you were saying how you don't have racist thoughts, and you said that fairly quickly. And as we were editing it, as I was editing it, I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't get." I should have pushed. I should have asked you a second question and pushed back a bit, because obviously, racist thoughts are sort of ephemeral. They come and they go. You don't have control. You have racist thoughts. Jesse, do you not? Are you going to hold to that?
I'm going to hold to it on one respect, which is like relating to what I'm saying, which is that, I grew up in a situation where it was like, I grew up in a multi-ethnic, multiracial neighborhood where you saw people take all forms of like good people, bad people, greedy people, nice people, solidarity minded people. It's like there was too many people of too many different races for you to develop these dangerous stereotypes, I guess, like in some ways. That's not to say that like there's nothing in there. But I think it's always like, I think it's this situation that I was talking about, where it's like race can sometimes contribute to a thought I will get in my head around safety or education or whatever when combined with other things. But I don't think race as a factor by itself. I get ideas in my head like negative stereotypes or negative ideas. I think I grew up in a situation where that didn't help you at all. Like it just like it wasn't useful, like, to look at somebody and say, oh, they're from South Asian descent, that means this and this about them. It's like, you'd already been proven wrong 8 times by the end of the day. So it's like, so
you're talking to the value of having a multicultural experience, but you were subject to the same media that everyone else is, right? All that, we have this critique of images of the black violent male and black women. So
yeah, absolutely.
That, obviously, yeah.
And there's something freaky about the fact that like Wu-Tang Clan is unbelievably popular in Ivy League campuses. So like Wu-Tang does like regular tours of like Harvard and Yale and shit, and gets like 30,000 wealthy white fans who grew up in all white neighborhoods out there with their like throwing up their Wu signs and all this shit while they talk about how hard it is in the hood and how they had to kill these people and blah blah blah. All these like Hollywood type songs, about like crazy violence and all this shit, reinforcing some of these stereotypes, right? In some ways, I'm not judging the Wu-Tang Clan for this. I'm just saying this is an interesting situation. I don't know. It's like like everybody's going to be different. Reality is infinitely complex. I was definitely exposed to those things. I never really liked Wu-Tang Clan. I preferred A Tribe Called Quest when they were like, when there was those two movements in hip hop. I was more in like this funky, weird, jazzy kind of hip hop thing. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was my favorite show. That wasn't like Will wasn't particularly violent. The opening theme song shows him like refusing to fight these guys at the basketball court and getting spun around on their heads. I mean, like, you know what I mean? It's like he as a character, he challenged a lot of stereotypes, I think. I don't know how to answer that. The other thing you said, like, the other thing you said, it's you have to take responsibility for your thoughts too. Like, you get that thought, it's on you to work it out in your head. So it's like, I might see a group of black men talking, walking a certain way, dressed a certain way, coming towards me in a night street. I have to, in my head, I might go, oh, they're like more likely, based on all these things my mind's going, oh, they're more likely to come from an impoverished community. They might be desperate. They might be whatever. Safety. There's this part of my brain that's going like that. My intellect can take over and say, this is not fair to these guys. Statistically, at least in Canada, they're like still very unlikely, even if they're from the most impoverished community, this is very unlikely that these men are about to do me harm. Like, very unlikely. And it is totally not fair for me to like put this on them. And so like, I can win the battle over my reptilian security brain, safety brain. You know what I mean? That's taking these. Just go ahead.
I'm sorry, I cut you off, man.
No, that's it.
No, that's the thing, though, and that's the part you didn't get to, and that's sort of your nature is to be, you're humble in this way. But there's a choice in there. So what you attributed it mostly to your upbringing, like you were just kind of raised in a multicultural place, but that doesn't necessarily result in you being Jesse Freeston, the person that I know.
No, and there's all kinds of people who don't grow up in multi-ethnic, multicultural situations. Like my mom, who grew up in a northern mining town that was all white, and but she's like very, I don't know. She doesn't particularly. You wouldn't know it by talking to her. You might assume she'd grown up in a multi-ethnic community. So
what matters are your choices. What matters is how you manifest whatever ideas come up in your head. You talked about how the intellect takes over, and I think that's major key. And that's probably why I didn't. Not probably. That's definitely why I didn't respond to you, because I'm biased, because I know you, and I know what you meant. But that doesn't mean that the viewer does. And I should have pushed back. I appreciate you explaining it further. But I think the key, I think to me the coolest part about the whole story for why you feel that you don't have racist thoughts, or that you don't manifest racist thoughts, is that you chose frequently. That's the coolest part. Like, you are constantly choosing to be the Jesse that you want to be, and that Jesse does not manifest his biases in a harmful way for people. And that's the goal. I think that's what Robin DiAngelo is trying to do. Even though, I think that's what she's trying to do, and I think that's something we should all aspire to do as we talk about this stuff. As we engage with each other.
My beef with I think the Robin DiAngelo stuff is very important for a certain white person who's at that stage, to help them get beyond it. I think it's missing this key aspect that we've been talking about for the past 10 minutes, which is like the material realities at the basis of this. Like that the desperation that impoverished communities live in, that can result in people not having access to education, or not having access to resources, and then becoming desperate and then resulting to crime or whatever it might be. I'm trying to think of the line in that song, the Blue song, where the guy's like, if you say that crime don't pay, you never tried it. You work, I work you, the ghetto logic. And like, it's like you can find these lines.
Wait, what was that last line?
You work, and then I work you, the ghetto logic. So it's like you have a paying job or whatever. You worked 8 hours, and then in 2 minutes I'm gonna take all of it from you. Like that kind of thing. So it's like that's an economic model for survival in a desperate situation. And so like if you say that this is all in everybody, like all these conclusions that people arrive at in their head, and get these racist thoughts, if you say that's all in your head, and that we don't address the economic inequalities that are at the base of so much of it,
exactly,
we're not going to get there.
It's a way of not having a full and serious conversation, and it's a way of like dismissing something that is like not just the elephant, it's like the elephant in the room, as far as I'm concerned. And it manifests in so many other difficult ways, because then when we see, for instance, you can have a conversation about housing in Washington, D.C. with a black person, a black, like, soon-to-be homeowner, and they speak in similar terms about neighborhoods. You speak, I'm not a homeowner yet. I aspire to be soon, but they speak in similar terms. And if you think it's just like vitriolic racism, rooted in skin and melanin, like racism, and you fail to notice everything that you're talking about the deprivations and the desperation, then you'll be confused. How can black people talk about? Of course they can, because it's not about hating those black people. It's about the conditions that black people are disproportionately living under. And I think that's so key. I think you just got to be honest about that, because then it spills over into what you're describing, people who the images spill over into people who don't come from those neighborhoods. And that's how you can see a black judge, getting detained in front of his home for trying to get into his home. You know what I mean? It's like it has nothing. Now those harmful ideas around desperation apply to people who aren't desperate, because it's about that. And I've lost my train again.
Yeah, so another experience I had recently is I went on I decided I was gonna ride my bike as far as I could out of the city and to see how far I got. I ended up like 3 hours out, and I ended up going to this beach in a park. And when I got there was like all kinds of different languages being spoken, all kinds of different music being played from Bluetooth speakers. And I saw a bunch of people like leave their belongings, their purses, their phones, their wallets, unguarded on the beach and go swimming. In a situation where, you know, it's like not everybody here is of the same ethnicity. Like, that's not where the trust is coming from here. And I was like, this is like this. So, but then, you know, I thought about it, I was like, right, I'm pretty far outside the city right now. Everybody who's here drove here, except for me. I'm crazy. I'm on my bike, whatever. Everybody else drove here. And so there's a certain class of people that's not here at this beach right now. And that's part of why this multi-ethnic group at this beach trusts each other enough to leave valuable items unattended, right? And then like the world I want to live in is like a public beach that costs nothing to go to, that's accessible on public transportation, where people speak in a bunch of different languages, dressing a bunch of different ways with a bunch of different skin tones, able to leave their shit unattended and go swimming without any fear that shit's going to get stolen. And like, until that world exists, I think there's going to be stereotypes. There's going to be, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fear that would exist on a beach today can look like a racialized fear. Mm-hmm. It can look like a racist fear. But again, it just speaks to what we're talking about, which is the next level underneath that. And yes, the facts that, again, the deprivation is disproportionately in a certain group. So these groups, I don't know.
But it's worth repeating. It's worth repeating though that this is not an excuse for racist stereotypes. Like no. You're still in a duty to win internally, to win the war, like to win the intellectual war over your reptilian brain that's telling you to be scared right now, or telling you to come up with assumptions about this person, because you still have to treat every individual like an individual.
Reptilian brain?
Yeah, that like fight or flight, like, oh, like, is this person, can I trust this person? Am I safe? Am I not safe? Yeah, that's what I mean by reptilian brain. And like, you still have to win the war in your own head over those thoughts, and say like, no, I have to treat every individual like an individual, no matter what. And I can't have those assumptions about this person.
To me, that's an actual legitimate goal that needs to be sought after and chosen every single day, just like a workout goal or a goal for your career or anything like that. It is to get engage with the biases, notice that you have them, engage with them, and do that work to push back against it. And what happens, it just happens when you engage more, you can't help but come up with a nuanced thing, because the notions you have aren't logical, and they're not rooted in experience. They're rooted in all kinds of things, and the experiences will work it down. It just does that. That's my experience.